This is a key to topic 10, part D. And in this problem, you're given, in number one, you're given endpoints and you want to find eventually the standard form of the equation. And so it's broken down into steps that you have to do. So it shouldn't be that difficult. And in number two, you're told that you're given the center and an endpoint, and you want to find the standard form of the circle. So the idea is this: if you think about it, in number one, let me go ahead and just kind of draw that circle. That wasn't necessary, but sometimes it helps to look at what the circle looks like. So you're told that these are your endpoints right here: -4, 2, and -6, 6. So here's -4, 2, right here, and then here's -6, 6, right here. Okay, right here. And so that's your those are the endpoints of the diameter. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw just to help to see what we're looking at. So if you're going to write the equation with circle in standard form, remember this is the equation with circle in standard form: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Then you have to find the center. All right, because the center, remember, you need h and k. So you got to find the center, hk, and you also have to find the radius. All right, and so notice the center. The center is this point right in the middle of the diameter. That's your center. And the radius is either the diameter divided by 2, or you can find the length of either this part of the diameter or this part of the diameter. Because if you draw the circle, and I'm not doing a very good job drawing it, but if you draw the circle, this is what it would look like. Okay? And so you want to find the equation of this circle. So the steps are already there. So remember, to find the equation of a circle, you need to know the center. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to find the center. Then you got to find the length of the radius. And so that's the next thing you're going to do. You're going to find the length of the radius. And then you put all that information into your formula for standard form. Okay, so remember though, to find the center, remember this is a diameter, right here. So that's a segment. So if you notice, that point right here is the midpoint of that segment. So to do part A, you're going to use the midpoint formula. All right, so let's do that. So this is going to be number one. So for part A, you have to use the midpoint formula. And so remember, your midpoint formula is this. That's where you add your x coordinates together, divide by 2, add your y coordinates together, and divide by 2. All right, so that's given the points x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so in our case, though, these are the endpoints of our segment. So our endpoints are -4, 2, and then -6, 6. So to find the midpoint, all you do is, in place of x1, you put -4, x2, -6, and so on. So you're just finding the midpoint of this segment. So the midpoint then, which is going to be our center, will equal -4 plus a -6 divided by 2. So remember, you add your x's together. So -4 plus a -6. Do it like this, just like I'm doing. Divide by 2, comma, and then you add your y's together, divide by 2. So you're just taking the average. So 2 plus 6 divided by 2. All right, and so simplifying this, -6 plus a -4 is a -10 divided by 2. 6 plus 2 is 8 divided by 2. And so simplifying this, I get -5, 4. Okay, and if I go back to the circle that I just drew, look, -5, 4. And so that's the center, -5, 4. Okay? All right, now, so that's part A. Then part B, so I found the center, right? Now I've got to find the radius. So part B is where you find the radius. So I want you to think about this. So the radius, if this is the diameter, all I need to do is to find the length of the diameter, right? And then the length of the diameter, once I find it, I divide that diameter by 2, and so that will be the length of the radius. So to find the radius, you're going to find the length of the diameter and then divide by 2. Okay? All right. So here are the endpoints of the diameter right here. So the distance formula, to find the length of the diameter, to find the length of a segment, you use a distance formula. So here's the distance formula. The distance is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So basically, you're going to subtract your x coordinates. You're going to square that sum. You're going to subtract your y coordinates. You're going to square whatever that sum is. All right. So all you're doing is just taking this right here and substituting that into your formula. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the endpoints of the diameter. So this is x1, y1. This is x2, y2. It helps you do this. It helps you label this. All right. So we get x2, which is a negative 6, subtract x1, which is a negative 4 squared, plus y2, which is 6, subtract 2 squared, equal the square root of, now this becomes negative 6 plus 4 squared, and plus, don't forget the plus symbol, and then 6 minus 2, that's easy, that's 4 squared, equal. Negative 6 plus 4 is a negative 2 squared, plus 4 squared, and let's go ahead and simplify this. A negative 2 squared, remember, be careful, whenever you square a number, whether it's negative or positive, it's never negative. Okay, so negative 2 times itself is a positive 4. So I get 4 plus, and then 4 squared, 16. So this becomes the square root of 20. All right, so that's the distance, that's the length of this diameter right here, the square root of 20. Okay, but I want to find the length of the diameter, so I got to divide that by 2. So the radius, so I want to find the length of the radius, I got to divide the diameter by 2. So the radius would be the diameter divided by 2, the length of the diameter divided by 2. So it'd be the square root of 20 divided by 2. Now remember, you got to simplify the radical. So this right here, actually, since we're squaring it, I wouldn't, you don't do that because you're squaring it, right? And so when you're squaring it, you're going to see what's going to happen. So leave it like this for right now. All right, go ahead and leave it at square root of 20 divided by 2. So that's the length of the diameter, right? I'm sorry, the length of the radius. Okay, so here's part C. So now part C, you're going to take all this information, you're going to plug it back into your formula. You found the center, you found the radius. So now we get this, x minus h. So remember up here, h was, so this is your h, this is your k. So h is negative 5 squared, plus y minus k, which is 4 squared, equal the radius squared. So remember, you're squaring the radius. So the radius is this right here, the square root of 20 divided by 2 squared. Now don't leave the answer like this. You got to simplify this. So we know that x minus a negative 5 is the same thing as saying x plus 5 squared. And then we have y minus 4 squared equal, now we got to figure out what this is. You have to determine what this is. So I'm going to remind you what this is. So you got to simplify this. So this means the square root of 20 divided by 2 times itself, right? Well, the square root of 20 times the square root of 20 is 20. Use your calculator. The square root of 20, square root 20 times the square root 20 is the square root of 400, but that gives you 20, correct? Okay. And then 2 times 2 is 4, but 20 divided by 4 is 5. So 5 goes here. That's the answer you're supposed to write. So that's your answer. So here's the work for part A, and here's your center. Here's the work for part B, and here's the length of the radius. And then you have your equation of the circle. You have to simplify all this, though. All right, so that was number 1. All right, so let's look at number 2. Number 2, you're told this in number 2. You're told that you're given a center, and it contains this point. All right, so in other words, if you look at the graph, this is basically what you're told. So sometimes looking at a picture of it sometimes helps you to understand what you need to do. So you're told the center is negative 7, 2. So negative 7, 2 is here. So there's the center. And it contains a point 3, 5. 3, 5, which is here. Okay? And so I'm not going to have enough room to draw the circle, but if so that's a center, right? So this is your radius right here. All right? And so you're told the center is negative 7, 2. And here's the other point. So the other point on the circle is 3, 5. So if you draw the circle, it looks something like this. And I'm not doing a very good job, and I don't have enough room on this side to draw it fully. Okay, so I want to write the equation of a circle in standard form. So I want this. Okay, so in order to write the equation of a circle, I've got to know the center, and I do. You're told the center. It's right here. Okay, so in number two, you know the center. The center is negative 7, 2. You know the center. The center is negative 7, 2. You just need to find the radius. Okay? All right, so if you look at part A, part A says find the length of the radius. Okay, so no big deal. I knew I needed to find it, right? So think about number 2 and number 1. So if I'm trying to find the length of the radius right here, then I'm going to, and this is a segment, I'm going to use the distance formula to find this length. So let's use the distance formula. Now be careful. In number one, if you remember, we were finding the length of the diameter, but the radius is half of that. So be careful. When you do the next one, don't take half of it, all right? Because when we did number 1, we were finding the length of this whole segment, and that's a diameter. And so the radius is half of that. In number 2, we're actually finding the length of the radius, not the diameter, just the radius. All right, so you got to keep all that into perspective. All right, so let's so we got to find the distance. So we're going to use the distance formula. All right, and so remember the distance formula is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, and so to find the distance of this segment, we need to look at these 2 points. So we have negative 7, 2, and we have 3, 5. So let's call this x1, y1, x2, y2. And all you can do is just substitute into there, and we're going to find the length of the radius. So the distance is going to equal the square root of, you subtract your x's. So let's say 3 subtract a negative 7. 3, let's do it over. So 3 subtract a negative 7 squared. Plus, and it doesn't matter. You could have said negative 7 subtract 3, does not matter, because you're squaring it. It'll be positive anyway. Plus, and then 5 subtract 2 squared. So when I simplify that, 3 subtract a negative 7 is 3 plus 7, so that's 10, right? And then 5 subtract 2 is 3. And then simplify that further, I get the square root of 10 squared is 100. 3 squared is 9, so I get the square root of 109. Okay? And so that's the distance between these 2 points, which happens to be the radius. So the radius is equal to the square root of 109. That's your radius. Now, you need to check and see if you can simplify that. So if you look at 109 and see if there's a perfect square that goes into 109. So let's say 109 divided by 9. So 9's a perfect square. That doesn't work, right? So 109 divided by, now remember that's an odd number. So I'm not going to use 16. 25 is not going to work, right? Because the last digit is not 0, 5. 36 is even. 49, let's see 49. Nope. All right. So the only perfect square then that goes into 109 is 1. Okay. All right. So we found the radius. So now I know the center. You know your center, and so your center is negative 7, 2. So there's your HK, and you now know the radius, the square root of 109. And in fact, if you think about it, you really don't want to simplify this anyway, because at the end, you'll be squaring the radius into your formula. All right, so at that point, I wouldn't even simplify. Okay, so now we're going to substitute this information into x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's your hk, here's your radius. So I get x minus a negative 7 squared plus y minus 2 squared equal the square root of 109 squared. Okay? And so let's simplify this. So we're going to get x minus a negative 7. You need to rewrite it as x plus 7. You have to do it like that. Plus, and then y minus 2 squared equal, and you have to know that the square root of 109 times the square root of 109 is 109. And so that is your equation of the circle in standard form. Okay, so in part of our worksheet, so part A said you had to find the length of the radius, which we did. So this is part A right here. So that's part A. We found the length of the radius. So that's the length of the radius. And then part B is you find the standard form of the equation of the circle. So you take all this information, and you substitute into this, and so that's the answer for the standard form. Okay, so there's your radius, and there's your standard form. All right, so that was number 2. Now, some students get confused with number 3. So it says write the equation of a circle, or write the equation of the set of all points that are a distance of 6 units from 5, negative 3. Now, at this point, you need to, hopefully, and it's okay if you didn't recognize this at first, but that is kind of the definition of a circle. So the definition of a circle says this. So you have your point 5, negative 3, which is 5, negative 3, which is here, right? Okay, and so the set of all points that are 6 units that are distant 6 units from this means this. I go 6 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure I counted right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 6 units down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all the way around will be a distance of 6 units from the center, from this point. And so you need to recognize that that is a circle. That is a circle that you just described. That's all that is. That is a circle that you just described. And so to write the equation, it says write the equation. So you're writing the equation of the circle. And so your radius is 6 and your center is 5, negative 3. And so you have what you need, and you just substitute into your formula. Okay, so in number 3, the center is 5, negative 3, and the radius is 6. So it helped to have drawn this out. Many students probably got confused with this problem, but that's what it is. It's just a circle. You know the radius, you know the center, and you just substitute into the formula. So remember, your formula is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And so there's your hk, and there's your radius. So you're going to say x minus 5 squared plus y minus a negative 3 squared equals 6 squared. But you got to simplify this. So the answer you're going to give me then will be x minus 5 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 36. Okay, so that was the key to part D of topic 10.